My name is Pierre Noakes, and I will review the financial report for the Australian Museum for the fiscal year of 2009 to 2010. I will give an introduction to the museum, review the expenses, revenue, and the balance sheet. This will be followed by some insights to the financial practices of the museum, and then with some recommendations. I'll start off by talking a bit about the background of the museum. The Australian Museum was Australia's first museum. It's located in downtown Sydney in a heritage building since 1857. It's a non-for-profit corporation accountable to the New South Wales government and focuses on both education and research. The financial report states that the museum's financial operations for the 2009-2010 fiscal year resulted in a deficit of 1.6 million Australian dollars. The sources of revenue for the museum were mainly grants and donations from the New South Wales government, which was around $30 million. There's also goods and services, which includes admissions, gift shop, and consulting fees, which was around $8 million. Investment income was around $463,000. The total revenue was approximately $38,463,000. The expenses included personal services, which includes employee wages, which was around $22.8 million. Other operating expenses, such as advertising, utilities, and maintenance, was around $11.8 million. Depreciation, which includes buildings and equipment, was $5.5 million. The total expenses were approximately $40.1 million. Deficit for the fiscal year of 2009 to 2010 of $1,627,000. The balance sheet records the assets, liabilities, and equity of the museum. The assets consisted of the cash, which was around $10.5 million, property, which was $216 million, museum collections, which was $767 million, and the total value of the assets was around $1,038,000,000 according to the financial report. The liabilities, the main ones were payments to creditors, which was around $1,732,000, borrowing cost for a loan from the Queensland government to finance a research station, that was $366,000, and other employee benefits was $2,340,000. The total liability was $4,438,000. The equity can be determined from the formula assets equals liability plus equity. The financial report states the equity is $1,038,596,000. Some observations that I made of the balance sheet were that the liability represents less than 0.5% of the assets, and the equity is greater than $1 billion, which represents a healthy financial position. This bar graph shows how small the liabilities are compared to the assets and the equity. The auditor's report states the financial report is presented fairly in all material respects. It means that there are no issues noted. The notes, there were 25 in total, and they explained the terminology and methodology of the report very well. One note states that planned deficit was $1,040,000, so actual deficit exceeded planned value by about 50% for 2009 to 2010. There is a high salary to expense ratio. The annual cost of wages is $22,819,000 for the 236 museum employees. There was an average annual wage, which was about $96,686, much above average Australian museum employee wage of $78,000, as determined by the internet search. There was also a high dependence on government support. The museum revenue was $38,849,000. The New South Wales government provided $30,333,000 of this revenue, which represents 78% of the annual income. Any change in government priorities may affect the ability of the museum to sustain its mission. An increasing deficit for the museum. The museum's deficit for the year was $1,627,000. This is extremely small and insignificant, only about 0.16% when compared to the value of the museum's equity of $1 billion. It is not a long-term concern. The deficit was, however, 50% over the planned value. This is a short-term concern that may indicate poor financial planning. There is a possible inaccuracy in valuation of the museum collection. The entry of largest value in the assets is the museum collection itself. It's $750 million in assets. One note in the financial report states this is based on a combination of market value and estimates. There is no approved process or procedure stated. Estimation may have large errors. This provides doubt as to the accuracy of the value of the collection. A few recommendations I had for this financial report were to initiate a salary review, continue with the efforts to obtain alternate income sources other than government grants, review reasons for exceeding the deficit by 50%, pay off loans to the Queensland government, and finally initiate and complete a review of the methodology used to determine the asset value of the museum collection. This is the end of the presentation. The Australian Museum is in a healthy financial state. This will continue if all the reasons for the deficit are understood and all the recommendations are implemented. Thank you.